Day 9, we will look at types of studies. There are three main types of studies that we will look at in today's lesson. The first is an experimental study. An experimental study collects data by directly influencing something to determine how another thing is changed. An observational study, let me change colors here, collects data without influencing the subjects directly. So one you do something and see what happens, and the other one you don't do something but still see what happens. And a survey is a set of questions given to people to seek their responses. For each situation, so if we were in class, we would do breakout rooms, and I'd say, all right, go for it, read through it, what do you think? What type of study is it good or bad, and why? And so there's, I think, 6 of them that we're going to look at in class today. And again, like I said, we'll do breakout rooms, we'll come back together, determine what type of study it is and what's good or bad. But for this lesson, let's read through and you can do kind of the same thing. So again, for each situation, decide what type of study is being performed, whether the study is good or bad, and can you explain your reasoning? So number 1, why are students missing so much school in the district? A district administrator selects 300 student names at random from the enrollment list and sends a letter to each student's home. The letter includes a page to be returned to the school, signed by a parent or guardian. The page asks, how many days has your student missed school this year, and what are the reasons for missing school on those days? All right, so again, think about it. Take a look back at the definitions. What do we have here? And is it good or bad, and why? Okay, so this type of study is a set of questions given to people to seek the responses. So this is a survey. And do you think it's a good survey? Is it good or bad, and why? And so some of the things that you might think about is, well, how big is the district? Maybe 300 students is everyone in the district, and then maybe you'd be getting a lot of data. Maybe this district is really big and you're not getting a lot of data. So it can depend on many things. And again, in class we would discuss, do you think it's good or bad, and why? All right, let's take a look at number 2. Same situation. Again, why are so many students missing school in the district? But this time, a district administrator chooses one of the elementary schools in the district and asks the principal to provide information about the number of absences and the excuse notes provided to the school. All right, so in this case, we're looking at one school, an elementary school, and the district administrator is asking the principal to get information. All right, so if we take a look at it, this could be, it's definitely not an experimental study because we're collecting data, but we're not directly influencing anything. It could be an observational study. It's collecting data without directly influencing the subjects. So I would say observational study. We're getting the number of absences and the excuse notes. And good or bad, and why? Well, it might be good if just everyone who's missing is in the elementary schools. It could be bad if there's only one elementary school and there's a lot of elementary schools and maybe middle schools and high schools. So I guess, again, depending on the situation, it could be good or bad. I would say this one's probably not as great because you're just looking at one school and one type of school. So again, could you justify your answer? All right, let's take a look at number 3. And 3 and 4 are related to each other. 3, what type of sweetener do flies prefer? A scientist puts the same amount of each sweetener into different bowls of water and counts the number of flies that drink from the bowl in 4 hours. All right, so here it's the same amount of sweetener in each bowl. So we're not really directly influencing it. I would say, again, an observational study because it's the same amount of sweetener versus, let's take a look at number 4. What type of sweetener? Again, same question. A scientist divides the flies into different groups and gives each group only water with a certain type of sweetener in it for 3 days. The scientist then does a test on each group to see how well the flies can fly through a maze. So I would say for sure this is our experimental study because you're directly influencing what's happening here. So experimental study. And again, in class we would talk about, is this good or bad or why? What do you think? I would say that 3 since it's the same time, we're not directly influencing it, we're just like looking at what happens. I would say this is, again, an observational study. Sorry, my stylus is squeaking. Okay. So again, to review, we have a survey, 2 observational studies, experimental study. Let's take a look at the last situation. Is there a link between dark chocolate and weight loss when compared to milk chocolate? A nutritionist asks 5 friends to eat dark chocolate along with their usual food for 6 months, and 5 other friends to eat milk chocolate along with their usual food for 6 months. The nutritionist then compares their weight after the 6 months to the nutritionist then compares their weight after the 6 months to their weight before eating the different chocolates. Let's take a look at how that differs from number 6. Again, same question, but this time a nutritionist gathers 60 people selected at random and randomly assigns half of the group to eat a single dark chocolate bar after dinner each night, and the other half, okay, so this one I would say, and then they're keeping track of it and then comparing it. I would say this is an observational study because, again, the people are doing it and we're just looking at what's happening. All right, so again, this would be observational study. Observational. Because he's looking at all the data. You could argue, I guess, because he's also saying you do dark chocolate and you do milk chocolate, that it could be experimental as well. So it's kind of tricky, I would say, for these two. For sure, it's experimental or observation. Compares their weight. Yeah, I would say that both of these. The experiment part is like telling them what chocolate to eat, but then the observation part is having them collect data and then the scientist is analyzing it. So I would say that both of these could be experimental. Which color did I use for experimental? Blue. So I'm going to write experimental because there's that direct influence of like what chocolate do you eat. But then the observation part is like what happens after you eat it. So I would say that both of these are interchangeable, either experimental or observational. I would say for sure 6 is the better study because it's more people at random and tracking data a little bit better for 6 months. So 6 is probably the better study. But again, I would say it's kind of a hybrid between experimental and observational. All right, so that's what we do in class. We discuss. It'd probably be better in class because then you're not just listening to me, we're actually discussing it. And then your assignment then would be pages 39 and 40. No, I'm sorry, just page 39. So your assignment is page 39.